in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzzed driving, because buzzed driving is drunk driving. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Talk 1470 is WWNN Pompano Beach and 95.3 FM W237BD Boca Raton, the Health and Wealth Radio Network.
America's service members and veterans are strong, forged out of bravery, sacrifice, and duty. They are diverse, unique, from all corners of the country, and, thanks to their common experience, a family for life. But whether they served in lands far away or communities close to home, some of these men and women may face difficult times or even crisis. But sometimes reaching out for help can be the most challenging and worthwhile mission of all for veterans, service members, reserve, and National Guard. Thankfully, friends, family, and communities are standing by their service members and veterans now more than ever. We're all in this together. When you recognize something isn't right, make the call to the Veterans Crisis Line or Military Crisis Line. During times of crisis, reach out and call. Dial 1-800-273-8255 and press 1, or chat online at veteranscrisisline.net or text 838-255.
1470 AM and 95.3 FM, the Health and Wealth Radio Network. Listen for the latest on nutritional facts on Food for Thought with your host, Jolie Root, Mondays at noon, WNN.
If you've put off dental work because you thought you couldn't afford it, I want you to call my dentist, Dr. Michael Blum. Bring him any advertised price, any print ad on any dental procedure, including crowns, caps, and porcelain veneers. Dr. Blum will meet or beat it. Call 954-463-4999. That's 954-463-4999 or online at blumdentist.com.
Staying healthy is difficult. What nutritional supplements should you take? What foods are best for you? What health practitioner should you see? You've got health questions, I've got health answers. From heartburn to hemorrhoids, pain to pimples, carpal tunnel to the common cold, gluten to gallbladder, and gingivitis, and all points in between. I'm Dr. Bob Martin. Tune into my Sunday talk show at 10 o'clock on Talk 1470 WNN.
Talk here. Talk there. Talk 1470 AM and 95.3 FM, the Health and Wealth Radio Network. WNN.
As a mother, you don't want to have to worry about this bill is coming, but then she needs this chemo. That's a decision you shouldn't have to make.
El que San Jude no cobra ni un centavo para nosotros significa quitarnos todo ese estrés, esa preocupación y podernos enfocar en nuestra hija.
That was the first thing I was like, how are we going to do this? When St. Jude told us that we didn't have to pay a single bill, I was like, wow. They pretty much have saved us.
It's like the world has been lifted off of your shoulders, and now your focus is supporting this child.
There is not another hospital like St. Jude. The patient care is unmatchable. It saved my life. It saved my daughter's life. It saved our family. As a mother, you don't want to have to worry about this bill is coming, but then she needs this chemo. That's a decision you shouldn't have to make.
El que San Jude no cobra ni un centavo para nosotros significa quitarnos todo ese estrés, esa preocupación y podernos enfocar en nuestra hija.
That was the first thing I was like, how are we going to do this? When St. Jude told us that we didn't have to pay a single bill, I was like, wow. They pretty much have saved us.
It's like the world has been lifted off of your shoulders, and now your focus is supporting this child.
There is not another hospital like St. Jude. The patient care is unmatchable. It saved my life. It saved my daughter's life. It saved our family.
The opinions expressed in the following sponsored program are strictly those of the host, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of this station, its staff, management, or sponsors. Welcome to the Golf and Travel Show, the place to fine-tune your swing, dress for the course, club, or cruise. and get tips on the best places to play and stay at the right price. Vacation or staycation, host Dan Schub, along with his expert co-hosts and guests, will tell you where to go. To play golf and vacation, that is. Now, here's Dan.
Welcome to the Golf and Travel Show. I'm your host, Dan Schub, and tonight, like we always do, we're going to talk some golf, we'll talk some travel, and we've got a great show in store for you tonight. We've got a bunch of guests tonight, and we'll be kicking that off in just a few minutes when we start chatting with our guests, including Jimmy Terry, who is the general manager of the PGA Golf Club up in Port St. Lucie, an incredible facility that I had an opportunity to check out this week. They've got a bunch of new things going on there, and just a wonderful time of year, of course, to be out there playing golf as well. Then we will be talking to Kyle Michaud, and he is the founder of the South Florida Veg Fest, which is a lifestyle that I'm not terribly familiar with, but I'd like to learn more. So for those of you who enjoy the healthy eating of vegetables and the vegan lifestyle, December 3rd in Fort Lauderdale at the War Memorial Auditorium, Veg Fest will be taking place, so we'll find out about it from the guy who started the whole thing. And then a little bit later in the show, a friend of mine, golf writer for over 40 years for the Chicago Sun-Times, as well as covering other sports, and still continuing the effort, and now a neighbor who just relocated down here to South Florida, Len Zion, and he also was at the event, this golfing outing at the PGA Golf Club, so he's been exploring the area, and he's got a lot to add to the conversation, so we'll be talking to him later on in the show. So tonight's show is going to be a little bit different than usual. Typically, we talk a little golf in the beginning, and then we kind of morph into more travel, and we're going to be all over the place. So what I'd like to do is kick off the show with some of my own travel stories, which I always do, so that I could fill you in on the good, the bad, the ugly, so that whatever things happen to me, you can learn from them and you don't make the same mistakes that I make. So, but I was traveling quite a bit last week. Unfortunately, couldn't do the show live because I was on the road. But just to fill you in a little bit on my travels, I started the week out in Asheville, Carolina. Flew there on Delta. Not typically my favorite airline. I have to say that the people that work there did a wonderful job. The employees have really picked it up, and their customer service is much better than it used to be. However, the airline as a whole has some work to do, and I know that they're working on things. As a matter of fact, there was a story this past week whereby they are instituting a system where your luggage tags are going to have microchips in them. So you will be able to track your own bag and know exactly where it is, even if it's lost. I guess if you know where it is, I guess it's not lost. It may just not be near you. But they've spent a ton of money on that, but it seems that the money that they plan to save by not having to reimburse people and deliver lost luggage and whatnot, they believe that it is a good thing. And I'll be happy to see it. They did not lose my luggage on this trip, so that was the good news. They did delay my flights many, many times, starting weeks and weeks prior. Just after I reserved the flights, they were already making changes and pushing things back. So that did not impress me. So getting the luggage there is important. Getting the people there is even more important. So hopefully they'll work on that. But Asheville, the area was lovely. Living here in South Florida, we don't get an opportunity to have much of a change in weather. We also don't get an opportunity to see the leaves change, the beautiful colors. I was in Asheville maybe about 2 or 3 weeks after the prime time for the leaves, but still got to see some of it, and it was quite lovely. A great restaurant scene there, a lot of foodies, microbrew scene, which is thriving as well. Had an opportunity to ride on the Blue Ridge Parkway, which I haven't done in a long time, and see the Blue Ridge Mountains. Went to the top of Mount Mitchell, which is the largest mountain peak east of the Mississippi at a little bit over 6,600 feet up there. You could see clear to Tennessee. Unfortunately, they're having some issues due to drought and possibly human involvement with wildfires, which have been pretty bad, so that's unfortunate. But also a thriving arts community there as well, and just a bunch of interesting people, but more importantly, incredibly friendly people. Every time I'm in the state of North Carolina, the people are just wonderful. So strangers become friends, and that's kind of nice. I flew back from Asheville, and in about 10 hours' time turned around and flew back out again to New York. Flew my favorite two airlines this time. Flew into Islip on Southwest out on Long Island, and Southwest never ceases to amaze me. They're always on time, if not early. The folks working there are incredibly friendly. The service is great. You get as many snacks and free beverages as you'd like. And this time I remembered to bring some of my free drink coupons that I had, on the magnet on the refrigerator that I always forget to bring with me, and then they expire. But I figured I'd bring them. I'm flying with my family, and had 4 of these free drink coupons, and we went to order an alcoholic beverage, which I never do, but everybody wanted to do that. And lo and behold, they said that the first round is on the house for everybody on the plane because it was Veterans Day. I mean, totally unexpected. You don't get that anywhere. And that's Southwest for you. They just exceed my high expectations every single time. On the trip back, I ventured into New Jersey to go check out MetLife Stadium and see the Jets play the Rams. Unfortunately for this Jet fan, it didn't turn out the way I wanted it to turn out. But it's a beautiful stadium, and again, the weather up in New York was just incredible. When the sun was out, it felt like we were here in Florida, and then the sun went down, and it felt like the North Pole. But a beautiful stadium, great fans. There was none of the rowdiness that I see elsewhere, with people beating up on the opposing fans and stuff. Everybody was friendly. Which is a rap that New York typically does not benefit from friendliness, but it's a bad rap. The people are friendly; they're not unfriendly there. And flew back out of Newark, and the traffic around there was not so wonderful. But the JetBlue experience coming back out of Newark was perfect. Usually late, late in the day. Sometimes they, as well as most airlines, tend to start to fall behind on their schedule. But this particular flight, right on time, and again, wonderful service from the employees. All the snacks and soft drinks that you can consume. The satellite TV was great as well. Which, by the way, Delta did have that now. In the past, they did not have that on all the flights that I took, but they did upgrade to that too. When I did fly on Delta on the previous trip, so I did have to throw that in there. But again, JetBlue and Southwest continue to be my favorite airlines, and we'll see if Delta will continue to make improvements and get into that grouping of the ones that I are not banned from my list of airlines that I'm willing to even step onto. So we'll see. What I want to do is throw out a little bit of travel news for you, or perhaps a deal or two, because at the end of the show, when I usually do that, we've got our guest locked in there. So one of the places that I like to read up a little bit about travel to get some of my information is a publication called Travel and Leisure. And they just came out with their destination of the year for 2016. And I thought that it was kind of interesting. It's a place that we do occasionally talk about some deals. It's a place that I've never been to, but I know people that have been there have enjoyed it. And it's an interesting place. It is a place where they do have some golf, especially by the coast and in the south. And this would be Portugal. And for any of you like myself who have not thought about going to Portugal, like many of the European nations, you can fly there relatively cheap. The dollar is strong. There are bargains that abound. So you might want to think about it for the golf, for the food, for the wine. There's just a lot that's going on in Portugal right now. And similarly, Travel Zoo, who, of course, I quote from on a weekly basis with the deals that I find, that they're my favorite place to find deals, they did a little bit of a survey to figure out, or perhaps more of a forecast to figure out in 2017 where the best deals are going to be. And again, kind of interesting. Some of it I'm not surprised by, and some of it I am. Their wow deal destinations that they're predicting for 2017. Number one is, believe it or not, Florida's Gulf Coast. So just on the other side of the state where all of us who are listening via the airwaves at least could just get in your car and drive 2 hours and be there. Florida's Gulf Coast. I happen to love Naples, Marco Island, some of my favorite places. Even Tampa is a great city. So here you don't have to travel the world to get to what could be a great destination. Next up is New Zealand, who unfortunately they just suffered another earthquake. But another place I've never been to that I would love to go to, a long flight, but with airfares cheaper than ever, a place that you might want to consider. Next on the list is Paris. I have been to Paris. I love Paris. Of course, with some of the issues that they've had with some of the terrorism, people have been a little bit afraid to go, and that has driven the prices down tremendously. So not only can you get good airfare, hotels have always been traditionally very expensive in Paris, but right now, not expensive. So you may want to get that on your list of places to go to. Next is Peru. Have never been to Peru, but I hear it's also quite lovely. And again, airfares are very reasonable, and the dollar goes pretty far there. Next on the list is the United Kingdom. Of course, with the Brexit, we've heard a lot about that. A lot of people have been booking trips there. Airfare inexpensive. Again, the dollar going further than ever anywhere in the United Kingdom. Of course, London would be the top choice. But, anybody who's a golfer, there's just phenomenal golf to be had over there. And last but not least is a place that's pretty easy to get to from here, a place that I've been to many times, a great city, and that would be Washington, D.C. So also a foodie town and a microbrewery town these days, and they just opened up a casino just on the other side of the harbor there. I believe MGM is running that. So there's just a lot going on in Washington, and of course with all the coverage and the inauguration and stuff, they'll be getting a lot of publicity, so I'm sure that will drive a lot of tourism as well. So I think what we're going to do is we're just about out of time for this segment. We'll see if we have any time for some more travel news and some more deals, which I do kind of have. If not, I'll save the deals for next week for you all. But what we're going to do is we're going to just take time out for our first break and a message from our sponsor. And then right afterwards, we're going to be talking to Jimmy Terry, the general manager of the PGA Golf Club. He knows a lot about golf. He knows a lot about this incredible facility, and you're going to want to hear about it because if you're hearing me over the airwaves, you're just a short drive from this golfer's heaven. So you won't want to miss it. So stay tuned. We'll be right back with more of the Golf and Travel Show. And we are back. Time for a message from our sponsor, Labor Finders. If your business needs industrial workers or if you're looking for work, you got to call Labor Finders. Labor Finders places for temporary or temporary to hire opportunities for skilled, semi-skilled, or general labor positions such as plumbers, electricians, concrete workers, forklift operators, landscapers, office clerical, hospitality, and so much more. Labor Finders has almost 200 offices nationwide. Near here in Boca Raton, they have offices in Homestead, Miami, Fort Lauderdale, West Palm Beach, Jupiter, and Port St. Lucie as well. So if you need legal, insured workers, or if you want to work, call Labor Finders. Toll free at 800-864-7749. That's 800-864-7749, or visit laborfinders.com. And we are back. And I have been following the PGA Golf Club since the very, very beginning. Actually, when I moved to Florida from New York a little over 20 years ago, one of the first friends that I met was a fellow by the name of Bill Cifolletti, who told me about this project that he was spearheading. And it was just fascinating. And unfortunately for me, I had the opportunity to play the courses as they opened and go to the learning center as it opened. And and watch all this develop. And now it's time where it's being redeveloped and reborn. And I'm really excited to have had an opportunity to check it out. And I'm really excited to share with you some of the information about this wonderful property. But I could do it, but better to have the guy who knows all about it. So the general manager, PGA Golf Club, Jimmy Terry. Jimmy, are you there?
Hey, Dan, how are you?
I'm doing great. And yourself?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on and a chance to talk a little bit.
Well, yeah, like I said, I've been familiar with this wonderful property since the very beginning, and a lot has happened over the years, and a lot more has happened in the past couple of years, and I just figured that perhaps having you talk about it would be better than just having me talk about it. So why don't you just very, very briefly give us a little bit about the beginnings and the history, and then perhaps we could talk a little bit more about the more recent history, the last couple of years, and what's happening today and into the future. So start out with the very beginning, perhaps.
Sure. Well, we celebrated our 20th anniversary actually on September 17th of this year. So the golf course opened in 1996. I believe the North Course was the first course that opened at that time, which is now the Ryder Course. And later on that next spring, the Wanamaker, which was the South Course, opened. It eventually grew and developed even further with the addition around the turn of the century of the Dye Golf Course and the PGA Center for Learning and Performance. And then actually about the same time they started construction on the golf club, they had purchased St. Lucie West Country Club and renamed it the PGA Country Club. So started out with a single 18 holes, evolved into 54, then into 72 holes with a 35-acre learning center, and has gone through some, as many clubs do, has gone through some maturation and some changes and ups and downs throughout the years, as most do. And recently, myself and our team came on board about 3.5 years ago, and we've had the great opportunity to sort of hit the reset button and give the golf courses some fresh energy, a new look, a refreshed feel, expansion and growth of the clubhouse, more than double its original size. Just a lot of stuff happening, and we're about we came up with a 5-year plan to really try to reestablish PGA Golf Club as one of the premier properties in this area, and really put something out there that is commensurate with the PGA of America brand.
Now, we're going to talk a little bit more about the Dye course, but we did mention the fact that the designers of the other golf courses were no slouches.
Yeah, we're pretty fortunate. There's not too many clubs in the world that have World Golf Hall of Fame members that are their designers, and not only with Pete, but Tom Fazio designed both our Wanamaker and Ryder courses, and then Jim Fazio did St. Lucie Trail Golf Club, or the original St. Lucie West Country Club. So very, very fortunate to have 3 noted designers and architects of our properties.
And I'd also like to add that the original concept was basically to enable everybody to enjoy golf and it not to be only a private club kind of a thing. And obviously I know you do have memberships and benefits for members, but the general public can come and play at a private caliber golf course on any day, right?
Absolutely. We're a semi-private club, so we have accessibility to the public as well as our members. There's very few days that the public access is not there. We host several PGA of America national championships and events each year, just as we are this week. We have the PGA of America Senior Professional Championship with 264 players from all 41 sections around the country playing. So that fills us up on a couple of golf courses, but we have access to all 4 courses. We still have the beautiful and cute little 6-hole short course, which is actually complimentary. It's actually one of the things that I like best about our property.
Well, that's, I mean, I hate to.
You might see. You might see a father and his wife with a 3 or 4 year old child. You might see 5 buddies out there having a beer playing, or you might see a couple who's just kind of getting started in the game, and it's free and it's fun. Pete designed it. it's a tremendous little piece of the puzzle. So,
well, I just want to say that I took my kids out there when they were growing up, and it's always been a secret, this 6-hole short course there. As much as I've tried to tell people about it, and I'm sure you don't try and keep it a secret, it's pretty amazing because it's such a wonderful place to teach kids. But even for adults or accomplished golfers, the fact that the holes, I guess, are about 50 or 55 yards, most of the holes, but they have they're manicured as well as the regular golf courses. The greens are really small, and those are the kinds of shots, those in-between club kind of shots, that are really difficult, that even an accomplished golfer could practice on this short course totally free and really fine-tune their game.
Exactly. If you want to find out how well your wedge game is, that's a perfect place to do it. You have to be pretty precise, and the scale of it is very small, but purposely so, and it's just a lot of fun. And I love seeing the different groups of folks out there. We touch a lot of people with that little 6-hole course.
So now let's talk a little bit about the Dye course. So it had been open for many, many years, and nature takes its toll, I suppose, and it was time for a change. So why don't you explain a little bit about what you did since it's just reopened this week? Sure.
Well, we're taking this, as all of us age, whether it's golf courses or ourselves, from time to time we need some work on us, whether it's for us physical exercise or the like. But so we started last year. Well, actually, we started in 2013. With the first project was redoing the greens at St. Lucie Trail Golf Club. Last year we did the fairways, redid the fairways in celebration on the Wanamaker course, which has come in and is just really tremendous playing conditions now as well. And it was time to do both the other two courses, the Dye and the Ryder. So this year was the Dye's turn. We had what we felt like was very good conditions on our tees there, but really felt it was time to take a look at the fairways and the greens on that golf course. So we started last May, reworked all of the fairways, restoring them really to their original width, and a lot of the humps. And as you played it, Pete has a lot of movement out there on those fairways. And
yes.
So really reestablishing all of that and into a monostrain of Celebration Bermuda grass. Over the years, we've had quite a few different DNAs of grasses that had appeared throughout. So when you would play the golf course, it had a little bit of a mottled look. Some of the agronomic practices we would use to take care of some of the grass might work on some, but not the others. So it's really difficult, really, on Dick Gray and his team to maintain the golf course because all the grasses always reacted a little bit differently,
Mm-hmm.
And so now we've got the beautiful monostrand of this Celebration, which is tremendous. And then we redid all the greens. Pete's greens are wonderful out there. There's nothing there that is really over the top, but they have wonderful angles, wonderful subtleties to them, and over a period of 20 years, whether it's top dressing of the greens or encroachment from some outside grasses, the greens tend to shrink. They tend to get a little bit different than the original intent. So we took the greens all the way back down to the substructure, restored the width of the greens to the original size, which was substantial in some areas, and restored. Actually, we did laser shots of the substructure, and to make sure that what we started with at the bottom level is the same as we ended up at the top. So we've really got greens now that were very, very similar to what Pete designed and built not quite 20 years ago.
Yeah, it was less than 20 years ago. I was there for the grand opening, and from what I can recall, I believe it looks better and is in better condition today than it was then. So that's pretty remarkable.
Well, thank you. We appreciate that. Dick and his team have done a great job. And you guys got a chance to play it. You're one of the first groups that got to play. It's kind of cool to play a golf course that doesn't have any divots.
Well, I was just going to say I have to apologize for the divots that I put into it because it literally was perfect. It looked like a postcard, and it's wonderful to do, but I do feel a little bit guilty about that. And the greens, I know that they probably were rolling a tiny bit slower because maybe you didn't quite cut them yet, but they were just perfect. They were just so beautiful, so lush. it was great, and the greens are a challenge, and the bunkering, very challenging and very creative designs that Mr. Dye did as well. It's not typical. And for those listening that are not familiar with this golf course, they may not realize that this is a link-style course, and there are not that many of them around here.
Right. It's a core golf course as well. There's really no housing around the golf course. You can see a few from the way, but it's really a core golf course.